Second Judicial District Court of the State of Nevada is now in session. The Honorable Bridget Peck presiding.
Please be seated. We are on the record in case number DV10-01877. If I can have appearances, please.
Bonnie Mayhem representing plaintiff who's seated to my right, Your Honor.
And Beth Lynn on behalf of defendant seated to my left.
All right.
I do have one little update for Your Honor. I had told the court I would get the amount that my client currently has paid and owes in attorney's fees because it's a combination of both. As of last night, and that includes for all day yesterday and my work last night, it's a total of $12,568.23. And there's an outstanding balance on that. I'm not exactly sure how much of that is. About $4,000 of it was prior to the start of us prepping and planning and getting ready for the court.
All right, thank you. I think, Ms. Luna, we were going to do your cross-examination of the plaintiff?
I believe that's correct.
All right, sir, if I can have you come back up, please.
Please.
I remind you, sir, you're under oath.
Yep.
Please be seated.
Good morning, Mr. McDowell. Can you just state your name one more time for the record so we have it clearly on the record for this morning?
Kieth McDowell, McDowell.
I want to start off this morning by talking about your residence at Park Place, if that's okay with you. In 2005, you placed Mrs. McDowell's name on that particular piece of property.
Yes.
Okay. And as a result, that piece of property is now considered community property. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And at this time, just so that we know where we're at on that piece of property, during the course of this case, my client signed over a quitclaim deed so that you could refinance the home a third time, correct?
Second time, but yes.
Second time. So you didn't, so it's a second refinance, but it's the third time you've taken out a loan on it.
2 loans, 1 refi.
Okay. 2 loans, 1 refi. Okay. And the first loan was in 2005.
Yes.
Okay. And that was a loan that you and Mrs. McDowell took out together.
Yes.
Okay. And the second loan was in 2007.
Yes.
Okay. And that 2007 loan paid off the 2005 loan's balance.
As part of the refi, yes, and it was in my name only.
Okay. But that particular loan was something that you and Mrs. McDowell discussed together, didn't you?
It was the business loan, yes.
Was it a loan that the two of you discussed taking out together?
Yes.
Okay. And the 2007 loan was the same way, correct? You discussed and the two of you took the loan out, although just your name is on it, right?
I need to change my prior answer. Did you say before this question 2005 or 2007?
I think I said 2007. Maybe let me rephrase my last question. The 2005 loan was a loan that the two of you discussed and took out together.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And as was the 2007, except my client didn't sign off on the loan paperwork.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to be clear. With all of these transactions, from putting her name on the home to taking out the 2005 and the 2007 loan, and no one forced you to do those things, did they?
No.
And you were in agreement to do those things at the time?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well,
now
yes.
you're regretting having made some of those decisions, aren't you?
No.
No, you don't have any regret for those decisions.
The last decision.
Which is?
The 2007 loan.
Okay.
Just so you know, you don't have to lean forward like that. It'll pick up. You don't have to like.
Oh, I thought because
No,
people were saying they couldn't. Okay.
No, I just need you to be near it. You're near enough right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's talk specifically about the 2007 loan and how that money was used. There was approximately $100,000 that was put into a joint account for you and Mrs. McDowell after that money was distributed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that $100,000, to be clear, it went into a joint account. It didn't go into a separate account for Mrs. McDowell and a separate account for you.
Yes.
Okay. And the two of you, according to your testimony yesterday, sat down and discussed how those funds would be spent.
A written contract was signed, yes.
And when you say a written contract, what do you mean a written contract?
A written contract in handwriting was signed by both Tonya and I describing every expenditure, that was how we arrived at the amount of the loan.
Okay, and those expenditures were expenditures that the two of you clearly agreed upon that you would use those funds for?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where a copy of that particular document is at this time?
No.
Okay. Well, I don't need to approach. If you'll look at my exhibit book,
Mm-hmm.
can you look at exhibit number 15? Number 14, I'm sorry, Mr. McDowell.
Yep.
And when you look at these 2 pages,
Yes.
and do you recognize these 2 pages?
Yes.
And whose handwriting is on these pages?
My handwriting.
Okay, and on the second page of this, is this the list of items that you guys were going to use the loan money for?
No.
No. Do you know what this list is?
This list was a list of items used to pay Arlene Giacovelli's business takeover expenses so that a new business could be started
Okay, and when was this list prepared?
at the exact same time that the contract was written.
Okay, and was it intended that the loan money would pay these expenses?
Part of the loan, this is part of the loan money towards starting the new business.
Okay, and so would it be fair to say that this would represent in some ways an agreement between you and Mrs. McDowell as to what the 2 of you were going to pay out of that loan money?
No, this isn't the signed agreement. This is just the scratch pad coming up with parts of the total.
Okay, was this used in coming up with the agreement?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, and so these were checks that you discussed and the 2 of you agreed would be paid
Yes.
out of those funds, correct?
Yes.
And is this a true and accurate copy of that list as far as you know?
I have not seen this list since it disappeared from my nightstand. It looks crumpled up, but yes, I haven't seen it since then.
Your Honor, I realize that I did not have him on direct. I can call him on direct to admit this, but I would like to move to admit this for time's sake this morning on his cross.
No objection.
All right. The document will be admitted. It's Exhibit 15, Counsel?
Exhibit
14.
Your Honor. And Mr. McDowell, can you tell me the amount of money total that you understood was supposed to be loaned to Rivendell Inc. for purposes of starting it?
$103,000.
Okay, and you believe the entire $103,000 was supposed to be towards the business solely?
Yeah.
And you didn't believe that those funds were also for community living expenses for you and Mrs. McDowell?
In the contract, it lists out the community living as part of the business startup. We had no income, needed the income to pay the mortgage, the loan, until the business began paying back the loan.
You also needed the income in order to have food, did you not?
No, I was working.
You were working, but you were the only one out of the 2 of you working.
Indeed.
Okay, so did you also need the loan money maybe to pay utilities?
Indeed.
Okay, and you needed money to pay gas?
Yes.
And you needed money for just general living expenses like doctor's appointments and clothing and things like that?
Yes.
Those things all would have been a benefit to the community as a marriage, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so part of that $100,000 actually went to the community to support living expenses. It's fair to say, isn't it?
No, but
No, you didn't spend any money on gas from that $100,000?
it was part of the business expenses.
That was a business expense. You didn't
Indeed.
spend any money on groceries out of that $100,000.
Yes, but that was a business expense.
It was a business expense.
Yep.
It wasn't a community expense for you and Mrs. McDowell to eat.
It was a community business.
It was a community business.
Mhm.
So when you say if it's a community business, that entire $100,000 is a community debt.
Yeah.
And that the 2 of you should equally share that debt.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's talk specifically about the home Park Place. What did you value the home Park Place for?
Value?
Yes, what do you believe the value of your residence is at this time?
Well, the loan is for $180,000.
Okay, but what is the value? Have you valued that home?
You mean like an appraisal? The appraisal came in at $154,000.
Maybe this will help refresh your memory on that value. Can you look at exhibits here?
0?
2. I'm sorry, I know I have this southern accent that can be difficult, so if you don't understand something, don't hesitate to tell me.
I'm there.
When you're there, do you recognize this particular document?
recognize it as a document.
Okay, is this your financial declaration?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McDowell, this has already been stipulated and admitted to, so can you turn to page 5?
I'm there.
Okay, and if you look at line 14, it says residence at 63060 Park Place, Reno. Is that your home?
Yes.
And what is it valued at in the community line out there? Is that $165,000 that you valued it at?
Yes.
Okay. And the loan, as you currently believe it to be, is $180,000, right?
Yes.
Now, is that the loan that you took out post the 2007 loan?
No, that's the 2007 loan.
The 2007 loan. And so wouldn't it be fair to say that that particular piece of property has about $15,000 of negative equity if you look at the 2007 loan?
Yes.
Okay. And that $15,000, if you're awarded that asset, that's really the only dangling amount that needs to be put back on the balance sheet for purposes of dividing the debt.
I can't speak to that.
You can't speak to that, but you would agree that you're now asking for this board to equally divide the assets and debts between the two of you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm asking for a divorce.
Waste claim anymore.
No, I'm asking for a divorce. I don't know what waste claim is.
You're not asking for an unequal portion of that loan to go to Mrs. McDowell.
No, I'm asking for an equal
Okay.
portion.
Fair enough. Was it your
Not the full loan. Can I clarify my answer, or am I out of line?
No, go ahead.
Not the full loan.
You're asking for half of the $100,000.
Just the business loan.
Okay. But wouldn't you agree that if you're getting a $165,000 asset, that that should go on your side of the balance sheet as part of the equal distribution?
No.
You do not think Mrs. McDowell is entitled to any part of that $165,000 asset?
She received her part because the loan, she received half of the first mortgage. She received, well, all of the second mortgage. I'm asking for a quarter back, but yeah.
What was your understanding, maybe let me rephrase that, was your understanding that the loan, the Rivendell portion of the loan, was to be repaid as a part of the lease on Park Place?
No.
That was never your understanding?
Nope.
Are you aware that your attorney stated that in her trial statement?
No.
You're not aware. Did you read the trial statement?
I'm aware that the lease amount that was agreed upon was part of the business plan and is still outstanding and owed to me separately.
Okay, and how much do you believe is owed to you total on that lease?
$450 times 24? Well, no, times 19 because there's, what is it, 19 plus 3? No, times 21.
And how much do you believe that you've been paid back on that lease?
None?
None.
None?
You've not been paid anything on the lease?
Nope.
That was not your testimony yesterday.
I was paid $1,350 a month, other than the first 3 months, which was the agreed upon $1,950. On the 4th month, I received a check for $1,300 and was told I'm not getting my $1,950, which isn't mine anyway because it was joint income.
Okay, Mr. McDowell?
So that's
Can you
times
look at Exhibit
21.
3, my exhibit book, please?
Sure. That's the next
Now,
one.
this exhibit is not in evidence, and maybe I'll clarify so the court knows. I believe all of the checks are in evidence. What is not in evidence is my spreadsheet on top.
I see it.
And I'll wait for my client to put that in evidence. But will you look at these particular checks and tell me if these appear to be, there's a few exceptions in here, repayments for the loan, for the lease on Park Place?
Repayments
Are
for
these
a loan
checks
for a
for
lease on
payments
Park
On
Place.
the lease on Park Place. When you look at these checks, do they represent
Yes, some of them.
payments made to you?
Some of them, yes.
Some of them.
Yes.
How many of them would you say, maybe let me ask this.
I'll check them
Are the
out.
bulk of them to repay the lease on Park Place?
I'm
Wait,
I'm
wait,
confused. Is she asking him to look at the spreadsheet or the checks?
The checks.
May I write on this, or am I not permitted?
No, you
Okay.
can't. That's
Whoops.
the official record of the court.
Okay, sorry.
There's numbers at the bottom of that.
And,
So what
so-
specific checks are they looking at?
well, and here's the thing. If he's going to testify to the document, it needs to be in evidence. It's not.
I can use her checks, but the checks in their book are all over the place. And so that's one reason why I thought it might be a little easier for him just to look at the checks here, because we put them all together under one exhibit.
Okay.
My point being,
You want me to move it into evidence?
I do.
I don't know if I can with him, but let me see. Mr. McDowell, I think I can, because this is something that only my client's really privy to.
What about without the spreadsheet?
I'd like to, will you consent to them going in without the spreadsheet? These are all on your book.
I don't know about all, but a vast majority of them appear to be, from my review.
I guess what's not, Your Honor, I may have to take that back, is the vendor report sheets that show payment.
I don't object to the checks. I believe the checks
Cool.
were all in my book.
I
And
counted them if you
Exhibit
want me to
3,
tell you.
with the exception of the first page, will be admitted.
Okay. And there's a couple of pages that are not checks, they're vendor reports in the middle, Your Honor, so the way I understand you, Ms. Mahan, is that you're not agreeing to those either, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Then
I can answer.
Hold on one second.
Just wait till we work this out.
we'll get there. Go ahead, Ms. Luna.
Okay, so Mr. McDowell, when you look at these, how many of these checks do you believe, in your opinion, are for repayment of the lease on Park Place?
19.
19. Okay, that's more than what you just told me, isn't it? No. Okay, but you would agree that at least 19 of these checks were repayment on that lease?
They weren't repayment on a lease.
They were payment for the lease.
They were the lease payment,
Okay, and
or supposed to be.
So
The first 3 were the agreed upon lease payment. Oh, sorry, the first 4 were the agreed upon. After that,
Sir?
Hold on,
Sorry,
hold
I don't
on.
know what you're looking at. Can
I'm
you
looking
look
at-
can we just
I thought you wanted me to
checks?
look at the first page.
Sure, let's go through the individual checks. I'll do this because it may make more sense. When you look, Mr. McDowell, at check number 1, was that a lease payment for payment? And it's numbered number 1 at the bottom. Do you see the number on the bottom?
Yeah, no, there's not.
This $1,500 was not a lease.
No, it was not.
It does say in the 4, personal loan repayment. Okay? And it says $25,000 right there.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so was there ever in your mind an agreement that $25,000 was the only amount to be repaid out of that $100,000?
No.
No. Why would Tonya McDowell have written that right there?
That's a good question.
Okay? But you're saying this was payment on the loan?
No,
No? What do you think this $1,500 was for?
I don't know.
You don't know?
It has nothing to do with 1950, and there was no repayment on the loan. There was never a loan payment plan.
So Mrs. McDowell's just handing over $1,500 checks to you in the marriage for no reason?
No,
No? All right, well, let's flip to the one that's number 2. This particular check, was it for payment on the lease?
no,
No, this $1,500 wasn't payment on the lease.
no.
Do you see at the bottom where it says for home payment for July?
The loan payment for the lease. You're talking about my rent payment, right? The mortgage payment?
I'm talking
You keep
about-
saying repayment of the loan lease, and I don't get that.
I think there's 2 things. The lease, is this a payment on the lease?
This is not a lease payment.
It's not a lease payment.
This
And
is not a lease payment.
Do you believe that it's a payment on the $100,000 loan?
She could have considered it something like that, but there was never a payment plan on the loan.
Okay.
So,
But this is a check that you got from Rivendell Incorporated. You'd agree with that, right?
yeah.
Number 3. What do you
Yes.
think this check was for?
I think this check, I never saw this check.
You never saw this check?
Nope, that is not my signature, and I don't recognize that check.
Okay.
I never received that money. If it went into our joint account, then maybe all these checks went into our joint account, I'm guessing.
But no, yes, and the question is not.
I
before.
can't
Yes,
tell.
ma'am, you are not allowed to instruct your witness from that seat.
I cannot tell where these were deposited.
Counsel, direct your comments to me, and Ms. Mahan, you can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would ask that you instruct her not to instruct her witness from counsel's chair.
You can make objections, you may not instruct.
Okay, so let's look at check number 4.
Okay.
What do you think this check is for?
I don't know. It says loan payment.
Okay. Do
But
you
there's
recall
no
getting
loan
this
payment.
check?
No, I do not.
No, you do not.
That is not my signature. I don't.
But the check is made out to you. Would you agree?
Check is made out to me, yes.
Okay. I think number 5 we can see is a Home Depot. It says Park Place Repairs. Do you recall ever getting that check?
No.
No. Okay.
It was written to Home Depot.
Okay. Okay. So when you look at what's labeled as number 6, this particular check made out for $353, do you recall getting this check?
No,
No.
no, I
And
don't even know
the
what
bottom on it says reimbursement for something that I can't read, but the check is
it
made
looks
out
like
to you
rental
for-
car.
For rental car.
Yeah, I don't,
You don't recall being reimbursed for a rental car ever?
no.
Okay. Check number 7.
Ms. Luna,
Yes.
I'd be careful. Your client's signature is on the bottom of this check. That's her signature, not his.
I think my client's gonna testify that this went into joint account funds, which would have been, Your Honor, if it was a joint account loan, payment on that joint account loan.
Be very careful the way you're going, because I don't know that it's a payment that he ever saw.
Mr. McDowell, let me ask you, check number 7, do you recognize this check at all?
I do not recognize the check, but the amount matches the lease amount that was agreed upon for the property.
Okay, do you have any knowledge as to whether or not this ever went into a joint account or account for you?
Specifically, I do not, but I'm guessing it would have gone into a joint account.
Okay.
It's the only account we had, or that I had, so,
Number 8, do you recognize this check?
yes.
Okay, and this particular check, what do you think it's for?
This is the lease amount for the property.
Okay, and you would agree that you got this check?
Yes, I signed this check.
What about number 9? Do you recognize this check?
Yep,
And this particular check, what do you think it's for?
it's the same thing. It's a lease amount for that month for Park Place property.
Okay, and do you believe that you got this check?
Yeah,
What about number 10?
yes, I believe I got that check.
And how much is that check for?
$3,900.
And what is your belief on what this check was for?
It is multiple months.
Multiple months, and you agree that you got this check?
Yes, I do.
I'm gonna have you flip over a couple of pages, and if you're looking at the bottom, numbers at the bottom, Mr. McDowell, to number 23.
I am at 23?
And do you recognize this check?
Yes.
And what do you believe this check is for?
I believe it is for the rent at the property. Rent.
The rent of the property. And do you believe that you got this check?
I believe so.
Okay. Number 24, do you recognize this check?
Yep.
And what is your understanding as to what this check was for?
This was the check that I got for the lease. This is the same property, and this is the new amount she decided to start paying on that
Do you
property.
agree that you got this check?
I do agree.
Okay. The next check, which is number 25, do you recognize this check?
I do.
And this check, what do you believe it's for?
It says rent.
And do you recall getting this check?
I don't recall, but my signature's on it.
Okay. So you would agree you got this check?
Yeah.
Okay. What about number 26? Do you recognize this check?
Yes, I do.
And what is this check for?
It is another rent check from the property.
Okay. And do you agree that you got this check?
Yes.
Number 27, do you recognize this check?
Yes.
And what do you think that this check is for?
It's the same as all the other ones. It's a rent check, but it's for $1,350. Yeah, my signature's on
Would you
it.
agree that you received this check?
Yes, I would.
And number 28, do you recognize this check?
Yes.
And would you agree that this check is for rent?
Yes.
And would you agree that you also received this check?
Yes.
Number 29, I'm going to ask you the same questions on these, and I'll try to be brief. Do you recognize this check?
Yes.
And do you agree that you got this check?
Yes.
And would you agree that this check was for rent?
I agree that it was towards rent. Yes.
Number 30, same thing. Did you get this check, and do you agree that it's for rent?
Yes.
So yes on both.
Yes, and yes.
Number 31, would you agree that you got this check?
Yes.
And that this check was also for rent?
Yes, it was towards rent.
And number 32, do you recognize this check?
Yes.
And would you agree that you also got this check?
Yes.
Okay, and that this check was also for rent?
Yeah.
Now, if you can flip on over to page 37. And if you look, to be maybe a little quicker, if you look at 37, 38, and 39, 40, and 41, do those checks appear to be checks that you received for rent?
1, 40, 39. You said 38 through 41?
Mm-hmm.
Then yes to 38 through 41.
So you would agree that at least the checks that you've indicated in this section that you received and that you believe went towards rent should be considered as going towards that lease, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if we total at least those checks up, we know that amount has been paid.
Yes.
Okay.
To a joint account.
To a joint account.
Yeah.
For a joint piece of property that you both owned.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say, if you jointly owned Park Place and there was a lease on it, that each of you are entitled to 1/2 that value of that lease?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 1/2 of anything that you claim remains unpaid?
Well, plus the balance owed.
What do you mean by the balance owed?
This isn't the full lease amount.
And what do you believe the full lease amount was for?
$19.50
Per month?
per month.
For how long?
2 years.
Your Honor,
Yes.
may I ask my client if he needs a restroom break? I happen to know he had significant dental work 2 days ago, and I'm suspecting that he's having some trouble in his mouth.
I would just ask that counsel be instructed not to give her client any additional instruction while he's still on the witness stand under cross-examination.
That's fair. We'll take a break, but under those circumstances, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
All rise.